Hello and good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time is it at your place.
Hello, hello. Hi to everyone. Please say hi in the chat if you're with us. What was the noise, Darko?
The dogs just started running around, so nothing special. But anyway, today we have a great guest, Laura, uh, or in Croatian, Laura. Could you please introduce yourself, Laura?
Hi everyone, hi Rita, hi Darko. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm slightly still nervous because this is first time I'm doing something live, so I'm gonna need like a minute or two to, get into the feeling. But I'm Laura. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a consultant, and I run my own agency called Proprium. We help entrepreneurs set up their business processes, implement software. Um, from the last 2 months, I would say I started my own personal brand a little bit more, and I started my podcast, Systems with Laura, basically just to talk about entrepreneurship. And then Edita asked me to be on the show, so here we are.
Yay! Thank you for saying yes to us.
Thank you for being my first guest on the podcast, but we'll get into that later. Edita was very brave and supportive.
It was a pleasure. We have our first good morning. Hi, Ekaterina. Thank you for joining. So we are live. Yay! All right. So you mentioned your company and you mentioned your personal brand. Let's start with the company. What do you do with systems? What are these systems that you're helping people with?
So I always love to say that I kind of pick people's brain and then translate what they do best in their business into software that corresponds with that. Basically, people call us when they realize I don't have enough time in my week, and hiring won't solve that. I need to kind of get stuff off my plate that I don't know how to delegate. So I really want to automate some stuff. They call us when they want to streamline their onboarding processes with clients, where they want to work on their sales processes, on their business management. So basically, we are there to either look for software, recommend software, and then basically check your needs as a business before jumping into that. I want to kind of clarify that usually people just choose software and then they look for a consultant to help them. So like they choose ClickUp and they're like, ClickUp experts. Let's find people who can help me with that. And then you can figure out maybe that software wouldn't solve your needs because your business has different systems and processes that you kind of have, and something else would. Or ClickUp is a perfect fit and you just need some help. So we basically figure that noise out, the chaos first, then we kind of streamline it, prepare it, map it, and then we do software implementation and automation.
We have another person saying hi, Philip Mastric. Good morning to you as well. So what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, but people throw technology at their messy processes first and then try to figure it out.
We figure it out, we untangle it. So, I act as a consultant, as a therapist, and then also as a technology person in a way. But my kind of biggest value proposition there is I am not a techie person. I had to learn this myself. And I'm basically solving a problem of running a business digitally for other people that I solve for us. That's the simplest way to put it.
Well, I have some very rudimentary systems. And I think a lot of people who are watching might have the same kind of no system.
Are they still on paper or are they in some kind of software? We should not go there, right?
Let's not go there.
I mean, let's not bash pen and paper
but it's not.
because, I still.
But I don't think it's a problem to be on paper if there is not that much of it. Do you need to use software for it?
Well,
does it not get even more complicated than it should be?
Not necessarily. So like I am not a fan of let's automate everything. Let's put AI into everything. Let's automate everything. I really think you still need pen and paper. Some things work better on pen and paper. And for some things, just switch to digital pen and paper. Get a tablet, get a pen. make sure that then the software turns your writing into text, so you can delegate stuff. For example, you can annotate on documents. So I always kind of try to see what is your recipe that's working right now, if that makes sense, and then let's translate that into software. Let's not throw software at everything. So you use 20 different tools and you can use 5 or 3 or still have something manual. You don't have to jump on every trend or buzzword, basically.
Okay, all the teachers are still here now because paper has been saved.
Yay! I didn't make teachers go away. Good.
Well done, Laura. You know our audiences. So what kind of questions do people come with normally? We all know this kind of chaos with technology right now, maybe not knowing what to use. What else happens frequently?
So usually it's either the time, it's either I don't know what my team is doing. So I simplify those very much, if that makes sense. They don't just jump at me with I don't know what my team is doing. It's kind of I distill that. But through conversation, I figure out, okay, well, you don't know what people, which tasks they're doing, who is working on what, which time is taking somebody to finish something, etc. They don't know, for example, if especially in the service-based businesses, what is their profitability. I know we're gonna get into prices also. That's my that's my trigger for getting angry because you have to know those numbers so you can set the prices. So they usually kind of have blind spots in business, and that's where when they sit down and they're like, okay, so I need a project management tool. I need help. I need to know what people are doing. I need to know what we are doing when we are delivering projects. So basically, whatever a service-based business comes up with as a problem, they come to us and we have a conversation. Usually they find us through software. So I mentioned we are software agnostic. We don't try to jump at you with software. But when they Google somebody, they Google people who are experts in the software that they're looking for, and they do find us through that. So it's usually either ClickUp or HubSpot or SmartSuite or Zapier or Make, and that's how we start the conversation. But then I ask them to let's take a step back and figure out what is the problem. Because if I just implement ClickUp for you, and I don't mean just, it's a process, it takes a while, it's something that we need to collaborate on. But if I, implement your chaos into ClickUp, then you have digital chaos. You don't have a solution. You just have a tool that you're paying for, and we still have the same problem. So I don't want to do that type of service. We first have to figure out what's the core.
Okay, so they don't come with the right problem. You find the right problem.
Yeah.
You mentioned that usually people have problems when they have teams, and when they come to you, they already have teams, and they need to figure out how everything works. Do the solopreneurs also have problems with systems, and do they need some additional software or actually any kind of system to just put them in place and to be more efficient?
For sure. And I think that being a solopreneur is the most easiest in 2025 than it was 10 years ago, because there are so many tools aimed at you with free tiers, for example, because they want you to start using that when you're just business of one, right? And then when you start...
It's just a drug dealer principle. You just, it's free, you get it, and when you have a team, now you need to pay.
I mean, you could put it that way. It's accurate, So yeah, that's how they hook you, and then you basically have all your data there, and then you pay for other subscriptions later on. But usually solopreneurs need this the most because you have the least time if you're a solopreneur. And when I was just a solopreneur, when I was a freelancer without a team, I basically needed automations to save my time. So why reinvent the wheel every time you sign a contract with a client? Why reinvent the wheel when you have to send them a booking link for a call? Why compare time zones? I did that. I am not judging because, all of those mistakes I did, I would, look at the calendar and like, okay, so the client is in New York and that's this amount of time between Zagreb and I don't know, maybe do we meet at 8 a.m. my time? And I would just like make a mistake until I realized, oh, there are booking links, and now it's normal to have Calendly, for example. But when I was starting out, it wasn't that, I would say, it was a little bit rarer. So solopreneurs definitely need automation, technology, and the biggest asset for them would be, and I'm gonna use pen and paper for this one, to sit down and just write down, be like, I start working with a client, step 1, step 2, step 3, and then see, well, step 4, 5, and 6 can be done through software. Step 1, I'm calling somebody, I'll do that still because I want to, but I can then put automations for something else, and they can do that on their own. They don't need a consultant or experts. They can figure it out without a problem.
Can they though? How should they start with that?
So, Edita, this feels like you're asking for yourself.
No, she's asking for a friend. No,
For a friend, yes.
For this friend that teaches English.
She has a good friend who has a lot of problems with this, and she just wants to help him.
Yes. Well, I mean, they can, because most of the things are very visible on YouTube. People really give free content with, here's how you can do this or how you can do that. And I do feel first few steps they can always do, on their own. We love to come in after a company is at least 3 years old, and when they have 1 or 2 people in the team, whether they are freelancers, a B2B collaboration, or they're really team members of that team, because you have to do business for a while before you can see the patterns. I wouldn't recommend to anybody who's a solopreneur to start putting systems in place if your company is 6 months old, 1 year old, etc. You are figuring it out. You don't know what's your cake recipe, if I may say that. You're still, getting the ingredients and checking out, is it gonna be a carrot cake or is it gonna be a chocolate cake? Am I gonna make people sad at my birthday party with the carrot cake, or is it gonna be something good? Yeah.
I think my friend will like that advice.
Your friend can call me later. Give my phone number.
Now I have a question for my friend. What they find is that it's not that hard to create system and implement them, but much harder is just to stop using them, just to have the consistency in using them at all. And from time to time, you just start to wing it, and okay, we just go however we feel that way, and not use the system for it. How do you tackle with that problem?
Well, maybe your friend chose the wrong system.
Oh, so it's a wrong system choice. Okay.
So, if I buy an oversized t-shirt that's 5 times my size, and then I'm angry because it doesn't fit, I might have bought the wrong size of the t-shirt, right? So it's the same with systems and software. People usually just take the software. Someone said, well, my friend is using that, let me try that. Or my friend is using this, let me try this. And you just open that interface, open a free account, and you're like, what do I click now? Where do we go? What do I enter where? And the same software category, let's say project management tools. So we can take Trello, Asana, ClickUp, Jira, we can, Monday, we can just put the list of 20, 50 tools in that category. There's a reason that all of them have a market piece, because not all of them are the same in the interface, but they all do solve the same problem. It's the same with restaurants and food, right?
Here we go.
So basically it's just about matter of choice and preparation. So, if you love, Italian food, you're not gonna go into a Japanese restaurant, for example, because you're gonna get hungry, right? So I think it's a matter of fit there that's causing the issue. I had to mention food.
Okay, thank you for mentioning the food and restaurant, and also for the answer. So, is there some advice on, let's say, where to start?
Yeah.
From kind of a smallest grade, however, you can start with probably pen and paper, but what's after that regarding the software, and as the teams grows bigger and the tasks get bigger, how does it look like?
So let's say that this person that we chose as an example is a photographer that's a solopreneur. And basically, he needs to track all of his clients, and he needs to know, when the shootings are happening. He needs to know when to message somebody, etc. Do you really need a project management system for that person? Not necessarily. You can use a checklist. You can use Google Tasks that's already integrated with your Google Workspace if you're using that. You can basically have a note-taking tool, for example, depending if you use, for example, at Apple systems, I have reminders. I have all of those integrated. And for my own personal purposes, I don't use a project management tool. I use pen and paper, note taking, and checklists because I don't need statistics. I don't need summaries of stuff. I don't need to categorize it. And basically, if I'm just this solopreneur photographer that's doing that, then I need my calendar, I need my booking link, and I need my notes. Maybe a spreadsheet, maybe, basically. But if I go over, let's say, 50 clients per month or 30 clients per month, I would look at it in volume of how many people I work with. When I don't have the mental load to remember all of my clients, just like this, then I would start with a simple CRM, or I would create a simple CRM and then go with a smaller project management tool, maybe like Trello, for example, that's very simple. And then as time goes by, I add more team members, then I would look into ClickUp or something else that's more collaborative, because then the goal is I want to know what they're doing, not to micromanage them. And I know my team is watching this because I gave them the link and they said they're going to be on the live. So we don't micromanage people, but I need to know where our time is going as a company. So I can then, as a business owner, be able to say, for this type of project, it takes us 20 hours or 50 or 200 hours. So then we can decide if we need to hire properly. So it's always, let's go step by step, because maybe while you're doing that, your business changes. Maybe you realize you want to be more of an educator. So you're going to offer different stuff 6 months from now. And you can't kind of know that until you get into that situation. So advice, go step by step and go slow. You don't have to have this huge automated business that's like a robot basically with everything. You just have to have something that saves you chunks of time and sanity, and then it kind of builds, on top of itself.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Hello, Samuel. Okay. So when you stop getting or when you are overwhelmed with post-it notes and every piece of paper where you write something down, then you go with the task lists on the computer, maybe Google Calendar or something like this, and then on a more advanced system like Trello and everything, and you don't start with Jira or something like that from the start, just to be prepared once you grow big with 200 people and so.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Makes sense.
You mentioned free advice on YouTube, so this could be a nice time to send a link for your podcast on YouTube.
Thank you.
Systems with Laura, find her there.
Yep.
All right. In the meantime, we have a
We
few
do
comments.
love YouTube channels.
Yes, we do. Mary saying, standard operating procedures, SOP, I'd only focus on this if I were to hire help.
That's a great advice. And I think they're a great start, because you have to write down your recipe of how you do things. And people who hired people know that you can put, 15 different people on the same task, and they're going to do it in 15 different ways. So SOPs are not just good for when you're working yourself, when you're a solopreneur, so you don't have to remember stuff, especially if they're a monthly routine, daily routine, etc. But also when you do start hiring, like Mary said, because then you can just explain it to a person, give them an SOP, and they have this little note that they can always look at before asking you questions or getting lost.
Okay. And we have another guest, Natasha Martic is here. Good morning, Natasha. Nice to see you.
And regarding SOPs, I think many people just see it as kind of checklists or things that look like text and everything. And what I've found very interesting that it can be done also as a video or audio, so you can just record it on Loom, or perhaps in my case, when I need to have something and show some other photographer what to do, I basically just create a video with saying, okay, you need to do this, you need to push this to remove this part, because you cannot just put it in something like text. It will be too much text, and it wouldn't be that really informative, and you couldn't explain it completely.
Correct. And I think that's the best way to do it. It really depends on the task, you know. So if I'm hiring somebody as a virtual assistant to check my email, a written checklist is going to be great. They will know which label to put something as, they will know, you know, things that happen often that they need to look at. But if you have something like this, then a video is perfect. There are also specialized softwares on the market, and everything that I'm talking about is always either 10 or 20 or $30 per person per month. They're not expensive investments. So there are things like Scribe, for example, where you can log in and it looks like Loom, it feels like Loom, but you're not just recording a video, it's also putting screenshots. It's creating it for you, like writing it for you, and it's also leaving that video. So it also saves you more time. But if you want something that you already have for free, let's say, and people don't know these small kind of details, for example, you can go to Google Docs and you have this option to dictate. So you can just speak into your Google document, however weird that sounds, and it's gonna just write your, you know, whatever you need it to be in the SOP. So there are so many easy and fast ways to do that. I just want to emphasize one thing regarding SOPs is that they're very much used as a buzzword. Everybody's now talking about SOPs basically, but you also have some other stuff there that usually when you work with a consultant gets shown. In terms of, you realize that they should be also taken into consideration. For example, we have an SOP, but SOP is part of a bigger process, which is part of a bigger system. So I might have an SOP on the first initial discovery call with a client that I do for 15 minutes. And my SOP would say, you know, greet the client in this way, ask these 5 questions, and then basically after that we go into normal conversation. But my SOP would be helpful for me to know and always start my discovery call in the same way. But my discovery call is part of my sales process, basically. And my sales process is part of my sales system. So I have to know what kind of goes into each of those things. And when you say SOP, there are 2 things that people mix. We have standard operating procedures and we have standard operating protocols. So procedures are more of a story that combines few different protocols. I'll give you an example. So if we have email management system, and we use few different inboxes for something. We have a CRM inbox in HubSpot, and we have our Gmail, for example. I'm going to have 2 protocols. One will be SOP, standard operating protocol, for my Gmail, you know, very cake recipe, step by step, very concrete. And then one would be for my HubSpot shared inbox if I have a team in my CRM. And then I would have my procedure saying that when we, you know, communicate with people, we can communicate through our Gmail, see the linked protocol for that, or we can communicate through HubSpot, see the linked protocol for that, and then see the purpose of this, basically. So things kind of go like Legos into each other, and then you get the bigger picture. So SOPs, perfect thing to start with, but they also have stuff that you need to kind of sort and add on top of that.
Yep. I just heard cake recipe and my mind stopped working anymore. But anyway, we have some comments, and as they are quite long, it's obvious I'll need to read them. So from Mary, I'm dying of laughter as usually listening to you. Thank you, Mary. We do like to entertain our guests and our viewers in the morning or whatever time of day they have. Okay, but Mary has quite a longer comment. Like Laura said, you need to find your own way of doing things, making it easier for yourself, first building systems that work. I'm just figuring it out after 3 years. I don't think you can skip the years of trial and error if you're solo. And additionally, we have one other sentence. My biggest issue for myself is organizing my digital files. No matter how hard I try, they are a constant mess. It's a miracle I can get anything out. And Laura, can you help Mary with this?
I can, and I just want to comment on the first comment that she said. Basically, you can't skip the years of trial and error for sure. And I've noticed that people, and this is more of a global audience type of thing, they find companies that sell you templates, and then they buy templates, and then they end up with few $1,000s of templates in ClickUp on how to run a company of this type, for example. And they're happy because, whoa, this is gonna solve my problem. I have this, I don't have to write anything. Basically, I can just plug and play, right? And then they open it and they're like, I don't understand that. Why is this subtask there? What's happening? What is this? Do I delete that? How does this work? And then they're very unhappy. And I have more and more of those types of clients come to me, and they don't understand why this isn't working because it's not yours. You can have, for example, a real estate company, and there can be 50 of you in the same city, and all of you have different numbers, successes, and basically procedures for the same job. It's very, very individual, and businesses need to have those tailored for themselves. Otherwise, we could, if this is true, we could just replicate companies, and you can open a new company tomorrow, and I can just decide I'll buy all the SOPs needed for a laundromat, and I'll just keep that running, right? I would be a millionaire if that was true, basically.
Yeah, you could be. It's called franchise.
I would definitely, think about that a little bit later, but I agree. But basically, if just plug and play was that accurate, then that would be, possible. So we really have to do this by how it works for us, especially if you're a service-based business, because you are doing a service that's tailored. You're not selling tables, so you can't do every table is the same mass production and all of that. And when it comes to digital files, I love that. And that's I love doing that for clients. My team also loves coming up with individual file names. So we have a workshop usually of 90 minutes where we just pick your brain and we figure out which type of files do you have, for what purpose, what do you use, where do you store them? And then, they're like, well, on Google Drive, on OneDrive, and maybe some files go on Dropbox because they're bigger, but I have some on my old laptop and I have some in the email. And I'm like, okay, we're sending Excel files in an email. So you have version 1, final version and stuff like that. Let's first figure out one source of truth. Where do we keep those? So if we're going to use Dropbox, we send everything from Dropbox, no attachments. So before organizing files, think about where you store them, how do you send them, who has to see them, how do you keep old versions. So versioning is important. And then basically figure out what are your segments or categories in business, where do you want to kind of put them, and just decide on something simple. I would go with a date, year, month, day, and then maybe underscore file name, and start with that. And then later on, add on top of it our own file naming system. We have department abbreviations. We have category of files. We've overcomplicated it a little bit because we do that. But you don't have to go down that route. Just figure out something simple, stick with it, have a source of truth, and try to put everything on the cloud. And it's going to be much better, very fast. And then later on, you can iterate and find a better solution.
You touched an interesting thing regarding the files versioning. And I don't think many people do understand what that is and how it works. And it could actually make them more problems than how they work now. So could you explain how that versioning works, and should it be handled automatically or by themselves?
So it can be both, and I think you understand that you can give us also an example, but I am pretty sure if you work with other photographers that you get final version, or final 5001 version and stuff like that in the names. And then everybody's like, what is the final version? Was it the final 15, or was it final 45? So you don't remember. So
No, I just usually work like a software, so there is no final version.
There is no
just
files, okay.
incremental versions.
I usually see that with creative, so I'm sorry I used you as a stereotype. That was not okay. So I know that you work in digital cloud now, but usually people version stuff by downloading a file and putting a name on it and then sending it back. And what you should do, if you're working in a cloud, then you can just have by backup seeing the previous version. So if you're in Google document and you want to see what was basically the version from Tuesday that you want to go back to because you lost something, you can just go very easily inside of the system and click, put everything back to Tuesday. So when you are doing something online, you don't have to do that. It does that automatically for you. But if you are unfortunately have to work with files that are downloaded, then I would recommend having like a little bit of written down system of how you're going to call that. Otherwise, it's a mess.
Yeah, and some services do it automatically. From what I know, Dropbox does automatic versioning. So if you update the file, you still can go to Dropbox and find the previous version of it. So it's not just overwritten, but it's also there's also some text editors do this too, and everything like this. But Mary had some additional comments, and you just post long comments however you wish. I will learn how to read better. So she said, if I could answer those questions, my job will be done. Well, perhaps you should talk with Laura. She will guide you to answer those questions. Right?
Yeah, unlike my friend, you're in the 3-year category, so come along.
We'll make an exception for your friend.
Yeah, and also for Mary, my sister is a photographer. Oh, great job! If I message her now and ask her of one of a specific pictures, she'd send it to me in 5 minutes. I'm mind blown. Yes, it seems that your sister has some kind of great system in place there to find files and just categorize them however you need to have them, or she just has a folder sister and everything is in there and findable immediately. Oh, okay. Okay, I think I'm finished reading the comments now.
All right. Katerina said incremental version. That's a good one. And Mary said that's a great tip. Excellent. You're already helping people left and right, Laura. Thank you for that.
I'm very happy for that.
Now I'm going to send you my random folder. You can decide what to do with
For
it.
your next trick, organize these files.
Yeah, but your friend needs to answer those questions still. How does it work? Why? When do you need it? When do you write some new version there?
No, that's just
you cannot just send
a
it and
collection
be
of weird
finished.
and interesting things. If you can categorize that, that would be a
Please
miracle.
create an SOP, Laura, in front of everybody. You have 2 minutes.
Good luck.
It's okay. I'm used to working under pressure because, when we're on a call, and I love when this happens. So every software is very stable. They have like 99.9% uptime, basically. And I don't know if you remember, like 2 years ago or something, Google crashed. So you couldn't access Drive, you couldn't access files, you couldn't access Gmail for a few hours. Instagram was not working, and all of that. And this also happens with software occasionally. So I had one client call, and I'm presenting one system for them, and this is really great software. I believe that this will solve. And here are the examples. Like, I'm not just talking, I'm showing. And it crashed. And they had like 10-minute huge maintenance happening and all of that. And I was just like, well, so what do you do in your free time? Which hobbies do you have? Because we just started talking, still work together. They still use that software, but you just have to stay calm in those situations. So yeah, even if you did that, I would be able to do it.
Excellent example. Mary saying, folder name, everything. That could be a good small talk topic when
Yeah.
things crash. What's in your random folder? That's where your true passion lies.
It really depends on the type of person, right? I don't want to know.
That is my downloads folder. Everything I download goes there, and who knows what it is in there.
It lives its own life there.
Yeah.
I want to come back to something you said a few minutes ago, and that's that thing about generic solutions being the worst thing you can find, because then you're just creating new problems. I think that's true for most businesses, that we can relate to that and tell that to our clients, right? So it's something to keep in mind. If it's not tailored for you, then is it going to work for your very specific needs?
Yeah.
Now, one thing to notice, if people haven't noticed so far, is that you are speaking English and your podcast is in English.
No, we haven't noticed
at a
this
peak. How has English helped you with your work and your company?
I don't know if this is like a millennial generation type of thing, but like I feel more comfortable in English language. I've spoken English since kindergarten. I think my mom recognized that this is gonna be something to know, and they had this like a small class basically where they would just like teach us, this is a book or this is words basically. And I started doing that when I was just 4, 5, 6 years old, and then I discovered video games and books, and the computer was fully in English when we got it. There was no translation for, I'm not gonna say Windows 95 because then people will know how old I am, but like Windows XP, right? And in order to learn how to use the computer, I had to break it. I broke it like 11 times in 1 year, and that was the time when you had to like take the whole power of the computer and just take it somewhere, right? And basically didn't have anybody that can help you with just the parts. So my dad took that computer 11 times to be fixed, and I was just learning English, so I didn't know stuff, and I always was much more faster in just testing something out and then burning it down and then learning. So that was the same with English. And I started playing video games and everything was in English. And I was playing like Grand Theft Auto Vice City. I didn't know the topic of the game. I didn't know what they were talking. And then I was like, whoa, this is violent. And then after a while with The Sims and everything else, it started getting better and better. Then the TV shows were there, and I was learning English. I was kind of adapting to it more and more. And by the time I was in high school, I was like fully fluent. And I'm gonna again say my age with this, but like there was MySpace, right? And you could connect with people, and English started helping me in like finding people online, like friendships over video games. Then basically later on, when I went to university, I joined an international student organization, ISEC, and everything was there in English, all materials, all of that. So English kind of guided me through life and gave me, I would say, friendships, relationships. And then later on, my business, the backbone is English. We are a remote first company and our main language is English. We only speak in Croatian when we have meetings and when it's something that's related to employees in terms of like policies and all of that, that has to be in Croatian, but everything is in English. Yeah.
We have a few comments relating to that folder again, the best name ever, and the screenshots folder. And when it comes to your English, you said you broke the computer, but you spoke broken English for many years to be able to have a podcast in English now. So that's a little reminder for everyone in the process of using it and learning it.
I still want to say, I'm like not best at it. And also I really don't mind it. And I work with native speakers from all over the world and they don't mind it either. And their English is not perfect. So the school version that we learn is not how you use language basically in real life, especially in business setting. And people actually don't judge you. Nobody's gonna get angry. Sometimes I can't remember a word after all this time. I remember, and this was to my friend, this was not to a business person. I was like, how do you call that hole in the wall that you look through? And she was like, a window? I was like, a window! Couldn't remember. So yeah, I still struggle with it, but it's much more easier, flexible, and fun for me.
Excellent to hear that. When you said I'm not the best at it, when you find the best one, please let me know. Who is it? Who is the best one these days?
I agree.
Out of the billions.
Yeah.
My favorite thing is to hear new words that my students create that don't exist. That's the best. That's where the fun happens. Would you recommend other people using English and expanding to other markets or starting from their local market? I think a lot of people, maybe from Croatia or smaller countries, might be weighing it, thinking, oh, am I going to complicate my life if I start posting now in English and starting to use other languages?
So, if you're my friend personally, then I am not just recommending it, I am making you do it. Because I really think that even if you think that you're just working in the Croatian market or in any market that you think is your own, you're working in a global market. So you're just not kind of being aware of it, if that makes sense. And if you just speak one language and you don't speak a global language, or you think that you will, seem a fool if you do or anything like that, then you're kind of passing out on opportunities, because business is a relationship, and if you don't communicate with people, you won't have more opportunities. So you're kind of deciding on, I'll just keep myself here and I'll just do that. I think that if you feel afraid, that's all valid. Have somebody like Edita to work with you, and then it's going to be much easier. Because it's worth it. I think that working in a way that global market is your market, it's easier to get ideas, to talk to people, to meet new people, to figure out new solutions, to benchmark from other things that you can also do. And for example, even if you have like a local store in Croatia, you can still look at other similar stores, let's say that sell similar stuff in other countries. You can connect with those entrepreneurs, you can exchange ideas. There are masterminds, there are networking groups. You don't necessarily have to jump into offering your service or product in English if you don't want to, but you can benefit from a global network with ideas and friendships and professional relationships.
Thank you for pitching me and for pitching the global role of English for me very nicely. Thank you very much.
Unpaid promotion, by the way.
You're the best. My friend is sending you a message as we speak.
Good.
Now, we have some 15 minutes left, and I want us to go into pricing. Systems are one big bane of especially solopreneurs' existence, I'd say, because we don't know where to start. But then pricing is the other one. How do you put a number on your worth? Are people going to run away? Are they going to buy? What to do? So what's your main piece of advice there?
So we need more than 15 minutes for that. But joke aside, pricing is not just will they run away. So you have a responsibility as a business owner, either as a solopreneur or if you have a team, towards your business, and your business is not you. So if I put a price on my service, it's not Laura's price, right? So if you say no to my price, doesn't mean you're saying no to me. You're saying no to my current pricing strategy. You don't see the benefit. I didn't show you the benefit. I didn't communicate it properly, and you're not gonna buy it from me. So I'm getting feedback from it. I'm not being rejected. I'm just getting information. So when you put things that way and you divide that, you can then start putting numbers on paper and realizing that while you do have imposter syndrome and self-doubt, electricity company doesn't care about that, and they're going to send you a bill. They want you to pay that bill, right? Every software that you're purchasing, they're going to send you an invoice, so you have to pay that invoice. So what I'm trying to say is you have costs, and costs don't care about your feelings, right? So invoices will appear, you have to pay for them. And if you underprice yourself and you race to the bottom, you are just gonna end up in debt. So when you put that big picture on it, and you realize it's not just about maybe your ego or vanity, and you're a bad person if you charge this or that, put that aside and put facts. Then you know, basically, these are my obligations, and this is my cost, and this is what I need to earn in order for me to have this be a profitable business, or I need to find a job, or I need to do something else, right? And then it's easy to set the price because you have facts. You're not just, throwing spaghetti against the wall and see if something sticks. You basically have a price that's based on that. When I started doing that in my business, and I would say my price and people would say yes or no, it was easier for me to go from that call and be like, if there was a no, I was happier because I wasn't underpricing myself, and I would always find clients. And also you have to, as your expertise grows, you have to up your price. Again, not because you're this, person that wants a yacht or something. It's not that. It's literally you're developing, you're learning, you're offering to different type of clients now. So you've done hundreds of these projects. Now you can jump on something higher. So that's a higher pricing. So as your expertise grows, your time also becomes much more less. So you also have to charge more if you're selling your time, because it's not the same to sell 5 hours per week to clients and 20 hours per week. So it's just a matter of you deciding and what are you selling, which volume, how much time you have, because at the end of the day, time is your inventory. And if you don't look at it seriously, you're always going to underprice yourself. So I always look at that very objectively, if that makes sense.
I think a lot of people wanted to hear that.
Remove the personal component there.
Yeah, remove the personal fully, because then you're making just business decisions. You're not pricing, well, I'm worth this or no. You are at this moment in time with the skills that they have, equipment that they have, and cost that they have, this is the price. That's it.
Everybody in the comments, up your prices now. We have a few comments. Ekaterina is saying, it's curious how speaking English helps us think and communicate differently, not from that emotional perspective as it happens with your mother tongue.
I agree.
For us Southerners,
it could help also with pricing, to remove pricing just from the mother tongue and greet your prices in English, and there is no emotion there. Right.
I think that's also a really good psychological hack, right?
Instead of saying ne, say no.
No.
And another one from Ekaterina again. Sometimes it's worth adjusting the price of your services in order to maintain a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if this comment means that you want to lower your price in order to keep a client, because I know you would have a reaction to that.
Oh yeah, I saw that very differently. So Ekaterina, if you can share with us, I'm really curious also. So I'm very much against discounts unless they are a pricing strategy. So for example, you will see my workshops have an early bird price because that's a pricing strategy to motivate people to take a place in the workshop, because I can't work with more than 12 people without it being unproductive and unhelpful and not tailored to everybody, so everybody can have a say in the workshop. But when it comes to my services, I don't do discounts, because if we start our relationship with discounts, we are already fragmenting it. I feel bad, you feel like you got something out of it, but from the start, we are it's not one of those spoken things. So if I meet you, I give you a discount immediately, our relationship starts kind of like fractured, I would say. And clients, and people usually are, sometimes we are all like children, and I'll use myself as an example. When I'm trying to buy something or see something, of course I'm gonna want a little bit of a discount, and I'm gonna ask, and I always check if software has some sort of discount code or all of that. But if I want something and they say no, I'm just gonna be like, okay, I'm still gonna buy it because I was gonna buy it. A discount is not necessarily gonna make me yes or no. It's gonna make me, did I push for it? Did I get it? Or is it a yes or a no? So that's one of the reasons. Another reason is you don't know what you are solving when you start working with somebody for the first time. So what are you exactly discounting? If you're exchanging time for money, so X amount of hours to do something for somebody, and you're discounting that, you just discounted your time, and the hour is not now 45 minutes, it's 60 still, right? So you basically didn't do a smart financial decision there. But if you give somebody something extra, or you adjust the budget towards their scope, so if you come to me at the time, you say, we have X amount of money for this project and we want this. And I say, well, you can get this, and this, not this in that price. Those three things are for this. We need to remove the fourth one. And we can do that for you, but the fourth one would cost this. Then you would be like, okay, I have the budget for those three. Let's revisit number 4 in 6 months. And that's a healthy business relationship then, because I didn't discount, I have my costs. You got what you wanted for the fair price there. And the thing that you wanted later on, we can discuss. Or if you don't want that, you can go to somebody else, and that person can maybe have a different price, because their own cost and their own circumstances could be different. Maybe they do this differently. So this is why you have, there are so many lawyers that people can choose from, for example, that do similar thing, but they have different prices, right? So it's the same with your services. It's more of how you adjust that and how you communicate that, and how much you believe in that when you talk to somebody. So if somebody's like, this is too expensive, this is out of my budget, I don't jump on that. I just go, well, can you explain to me what are the expectations? What is the budget range? Let's talk about that. And I don't shy away from asking for what's your estimated budget. I have my prices, I can tell them the range, we can figure it out. But I don't get scared when I ask, what's your budget? And I'm like, oh my God, what will they say? What will happen now? And I panic. I just go, so what are your expectations regarding the budget and timeline? And I just sit still and I sip my coffee and I look them dead in the eye and wait for them to say something, right? Yeah.
Amazing tips. I think we have material for 3 different episodes here. And it's a good time to announce that we are soon moving to audio. So if you want to listen to Laura's advice while you're jogging and maybe repeat it a couple of times just to remember it better, you'll be able to do that very soon. Now, we have a comment again from Ekaterina regarding prices. Let's see. She's clarified. She says, yes, in a way. I mean, this company person can spread a word for your business. I agree with not giving discounts only because people ask you for it. Not doing it either, especially when you run a business of your own.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, you can always give them something that will make the relationship feel closer, or a gift, or, merch, for example, or anything like that, or additional template, bonus, SOP or something. Basically, I'm just winging now, but doesn't have to be a discount. It can just be something, hey, I appreciate our relationship. This is something that I noticed. Here's a white paper that you could use, or here's a video that I saw, or here's a course. Or, for example, we have pre-recorded courses in our business that we sell, that are still just one-off, 2 or 3 hours long, not full course that you go over per weeks. But then if you're a client of ours and you take a bigger package, of course, I'm going to give you access to a few of those videos just out of goodwill to show, relationship at a good start. But I won't give you a discount just because discount is going to make things better. It's not. This will make you feel more special because you got something additional that gives you value that you didn't have to pay for. And it's something that I can put inside a package that, is much more tailored for you.
I like the sound of that. This is a good moment to tell people that you actually have a workshop on this. Now, this one is in Croatian, right, Laura?
So we usually have everything in English, but we also post workshops on Eduza in Croatian. And if there are more Croatian speakers, then we have a Croatian group. So this particular link is going to be in Croatian, but soon on proprium.agency, in 2 or 3 weeks, you will be able to see those same workshops fully in English with the dates there. So if you're interested, follow me on LinkedIn, because I will probably not shut up about it, so you will see it. Yeah.
Excellent. And we will update the links on our YouTube channel as well, so that you can click on there as well. Show us some love on YouTube if you can. If you can find us at Seen and Heard.
Seen, heard, and not found on YouTube.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Wait until my friend upgrades.
Yep.
Now, we have maybe 3 or 4 minutes left. So all of you in the comments, this is your final chance to ask your very important question. So please do if there's something left.
There are always some pricing questions, so yeah.
Anything.
Don't be afraid.
Even if you had like a challenge, maybe I can help. You know, you had a situation, tell us about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And in the meantime, you two can talk about food and pricing, because I know you've been waiting.
Oh boy.
I'm avoiding this. I don't know why you push me into these conversations. I don't know.
Because your face lights up. It's just transformative.
Oh.
See?
You cannot put these two in the same category, pricing and food, because food cannot be.
Yeah, but you can put
priced.
portions.
What
Portions.
oh,
I have problems with those.
yeah, I know you have a pet peeve with portion sizes here.
Yeah,
So
for
we
the
talked
viewers.
about it before. So
I just want to emphasize, I lived in Slavonia, so that's a Croatian region known for good food. So I am very judgy when it comes to that. Yes.
okay, I won't say there is no good food anywhere else in Croatia, but the portions might be smaller in some other parts of the country. So there seems to be a problem with that.
I have to say there are a lot of places in Croatia that have great food. I'm just saying that Slavonia has
the best.
My,
right?
no, not to put it that way. My taste is Slavonia. Let's put it that way. Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm not judging everybody else. But,
Yep.
you know, I can't comment on fish, so I don't, that's not my category.
Yeah, but there is also there's also a meal called fish there, and you don't eat that.
I am not a
It's
fan,
Slavonian
but
dish.
I can definitely recommend it. Personally, I don't like fish, but I would eat a good fish paprikash, yes. But without, you know, the fish. Just
Without- It's a dish consisted of fish, but you eat it without the fish. Okay.
Amazing. This is a good analogy for your pricing story.
You have to have
the menu.
You have to have a system. You have to have a system. So, you know.
Give them the menu and make sure that they can switch up the ingredients, but the price should reflect that, you know, for your fish paprika without the fish.
I think that we both agree we'll pay for a good meal, but we have some standards there. Yeah.
The fish shouldn't be in there.
No.
Amazing.
The fish belongs in the sea.
So it's just water, chili, and some potatoes, and this is it.
Sounds like a vegetarian version for me. So.
Yeah.
This is more of a. See, this is where English kind of becomes clunky, because I can see both Darko and me struggling to translate what we want to say.
There is no translation. And
No, I cannot understand how it looks like. Huh?
Well, we'll have the post recording conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, and pictures of it. I need to see pictures of how that looks
No,
like.
so it's okay that the fish was cooked there. I just don't want to eat the fish in question. I'm okay with the soup flavor, fish flavored soup. Please,
Okay,
let's delete
so
this
actually,
from
it's a
YouTube.
fish soup then.
We have proof. We have something to blackmail you with.
This is for sure why I don't like lives, but it's fun.
Oh, okay. Okay, now that we lost all of our viewers, thank you all for being today on the show. Thank you, Laura. It was really interesting to get to know more about the systems and pricing, how to implement it with the systems, and just remove all the emotion from the price and selling. And thank all the viewers for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. And if you know like me telling you with tough love some stuff, you can also look at my YouTube channel. I really try to give advices like that there. And if you want to connect, let's talk on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was such a pleasure talking to both of you.
Thank you so much for saying
Thank you.
yes and dishing all this useful advice. As Darko said, yeah, leave the emotions out of the pricing, keep the emotions for the food. Take care, everyone. Thank you for being so active today. Bye.